Get ready. It's time to surround yourself with some of the best attractions Central Florida has to offer. It's time for the Central Florida Sights and Sounds Podcast with your hosts, John and Anne Marie Carigliano.
To all who come to this happy place, welcome.
Welcome to our family time. Welcome to our brotherly time. We're happy, giving and taking to the friends we're making. There's nothing we won't do. Welcome to our family time. Welcome to our happy time. This is a festival, and now the best of all. We're here to share it all.
Welcome to Season 4, Episode 2 of the Central Florida Sights and Sounds Podcast, bringing you the sights and sounds of Central Florida's world-class attractions. And I'm your host, John Carigliano, and of course with me, once again, is my lovely wife, Miss Anne Marie.
Hi.
Well, we're here at the Kennedy Space Center Visitor Complex for this episode.
Orion is literally right behind us.
Orion, the full-scale model of Orion, is right behind us. And, yeah, so
There's a robot running around.
there's a Robonaut that is walking around the area. Rolling, yes. So why are we here today, Anne-Marie?
Because we decided to come here. We got some free tickets from Justin.
Oh, yeah, and thank you, Justin, to that as well. But on today's episode, with us being here at KSC, we're going to be doing a couple of movies. We're going to go check out the Astronaut Hall of Fame. We're obviously going to go check out the Space Shuttle Atlantis exhibit. So, yeah, we're going to be checking out a lot of things around here at the visitor complex.
Yes, we are. This is my second time here. I don't even know how many times John has been here.
This is probably maybe my fourth time here. It's not that often I get to come over here, but, you know, I do enjoy coming over here.
John's a big space nerd.
I am.
He gets upset when I say spaceship.
Yeah. But I really do enjoy coming here. It's always nice finding out how the future of our space exploration will just keep going towards the future. That didn't make any sense whatsoever now I just think about that. It's always nice to see how NASA is always pushing the bounds of going beyond low Earth orbit. So...
Yeah, so apparently the Orion thing behind us is going to, you have to sit in it for how many months? You said like a couple months? You'd have to like sit in there.
Yeah.
And it's not that big. I mean, it's big, but it's not like.
It's Volkswagen big.
Yeah, it's like, it's not like, you know, imagine taking a cross-country road trip in a Beetle.
So we're going to be obviously giving you some awesome audio, and hopefully if all of you really enjoyed space or space things, this will be a podcast that you'll enjoy. Hopefully it'll wash your ears out from last week's show when we did Jimmy Fallon.
Sorry about that again.
Not one of the best season premieres that we've done, but
at least you experienced it, and now if you ever go to Universal, you never have to go to it.
Exactly. you got a sneak peek a month in advance. So with that, I think one of the first things we're going to be doing is seeing one of the movies over in the IMAX theater, and I believe it is called, if I can pull that out.
We actually had to get a Times Guide and a map.
Yeah, we did. We're going to be seeing A Beautiful Planet, so hopefully you will enjoy it. So, yeah, enjoy the show.
On behalf of the Kennedy Space Center Visitor Complex, welcome to our IMAX presentation. We ask while you are here, there will be no smoking and no flash photography. To assure a quality experience for everyone, if you need to leave during the show, you will not be able to re-enter the theater. After the movie, be sure to visit the Space Shop, Florida's largest store devoted to space memorabilia. Now, sit back and prepare for your journey into space.
Our Milky Way is just one among billions of galaxies in the universe. In every way, an ordinary galaxy. It's 100,000 light years across. There are hundreds of billions of stars here. Almost lost inside this huge swarm is one average-sized star. As stars go, it's quite unremarkable. Nevertheless, it's the most special place in all the cosmos. Orbiting this star is the only place we know in all the universe to harbor life. Beautiful planet is a world of water, sparkling blue in the light of our star. 2/3 of it is ocean. Gossamer clouds drift above it, driven by ocean currents. All of it is is wrapped in a delicate cocoon of air that shields us from our star's radiation. Three brave explorers are about to leave the safety of Earth. They are an American, Terry Burtz, a Russian, Anton Skaplerov, and an Italian, Samantha Cristoforetti. Their mission, 6 months in space to study microgravity, do biomedical research, and observe the Earth. They're sealed inside this tiny metal cocoon, a Russian Soyuz spacecraft traveling at 17,500 miles an hour. Their destination? The International Space Station. It was built in orbit by 16 countries. It's a research lab, training facility, and observatory, all powered by the sun. A truly awesome example of what we can achieve when we work together. Already on board to welcome the new arrivals, Russian crew members Sasha Samakutayev and Yelena Sarova.
The arrival to the space station was possibly the happiest moment of my life, really. And then they were, Yelena, Sasha, and Butch welcoming us on board. And, it was just sheer happiness. We hugged, really, I was like a child at that point. I mean, it's something I had dreamed of for years. I had studied the space station. I'd worked so hard together, and finally I was there.
I heard you banging.
Terry is welcomed by Commander Butch Wilmore.
Great launch. Pretty wild ride.
Butch describes the crazy scene.
As I watched Anton, I mean, he was thrilled and doing flips and excited, floating around, hitting the ceiling. Samantha, the look on her face, just absolutely thrilling. It was literally electric in the room. It was fabulous.
Samantha recalls her first ever view from space.
But I just couldn't resist to take a peek. And I could just see the Earth majestically flowing by, and it was like a river. And I don't know what happiness is, but I was definitely happy at that time.
How do you see the cupola?
The cupola is a magical window, unlike any other, on the spectacle of our Earth and ourselves. Past, present, and future.
What I always found especially moving were the passes where we would fly from the Atlantic and then fly over Gibraltar onto the Mediterranean. And it was almost like I was doing this journey that, travelers from legends and myths in the past had dreamed of or performed in the reverse way, right? From the Mediterranean through Gibraltar, which, once was considered the end of the known world.
More than 500 years ago, explorers rounded the stormy tip of South Africa. As an omen for future trade, they named it the Cape of Good Hope. At the same time, the glorious Caribbean beckoned with the untold riches of the New World. Aboriginal people came from Asia more than 30,000 years ago, bringing their spiritual ties to this land, the continent we now know as Australia. The Maori people from Polynesia traveled thousands of miles in tiny canoes across the Pacific Ocean before they reached New Zealand. Home to the ancient Inca civilization, the longest mountain range in the world, the Andes. They stretch 4,500 miles across some of the most extreme climate zones on Earth, from ice fields to deserts. The oldest and driest desert is the Namib in Africa. You can see our climates from space. The Great Lakes of North America lie trapped in ice and snow for more than a third of the year. You can also see evidence of Earth's violent past. Asteroid impacts have left scars on its surface. This crater in Quebec is 62 miles across. The Earth is still active. Volcanoes tear through its surface. The Kamchatka Peninsula in Russia has over 100 of them. Now Terry Birds describes his experience.
One of the most beautiful things to see from space is thunderstorms at night. And there's certain parts of the Earth, Central Africa especially, but also Southeast Asia, there are just amazing amounts of thunderstorms. You see thousands of flashes per minute. An unbelievable amount of power when you think about a giant lightning bolt going off near your house and how loud it is and how that scares you and the dog runs under the table. When you see it from space, there's so many of these things happening at the same time. It's truly amazing.
You see power. A funnel 25 miles in diameter of the center of a hurricane or a typhoon, and you go, oh my.
Typhoon Mysak was amazing. I've never seen anything like that. The eye was so big, so well defined.
Then you realize that that's energy, and it is powerful energy.
Far above the storm, every drop of water is carefully rationed.
There's no showers in space, so you can't just go under the water and let it run. It's just kind of wet towels and wiping down. But you can get pretty clean, and washing your hair is not too bad.
In principle, we want to recycle all the water, which means that the urine gets recycled, but also your sweat, all the humidity from the air, which is recuperated into the system via the air conditioning system, also gets recycled into potable water. It's not a 100% efficient system, so we do have water bags on the space station as well.
The SpaceX resupply ship, called Dragon, arrives from Florida. It's one of the first commercial craft to bring up supplies.
It brings food and water and equipment, and without that, we wouldn't be able to live more than a few extra months on the space station. But on Earth, we kind of don't have any supply ships. It's almost like a mission to Mars when you're not going to get a supply ship. You have to pack everything with you.
When we're all doing cargo ops together, I mean, it is organized bedlam. It literally is crisscrossing, people flying, packages flying, going here and there, and you have to get them in the right place. But you can't put it in the wrong spot because you'll lose it. You won't be able to find it later because there's so much, literally thousands of items. And you can't remember where you put every single one of them. That's why we have to have this database. We lost a 14-inch torque wrench, and it was gone for 5 weeks. It just floated off, I guess, and went in some little nook and cranny somewhere, hit itself, and it finally reappeared one day.
I like to sleep floating, so I did not attach my sleeping bag to the walls at all. And especially at the beginning, I would just like close my eyes and let myself float and just fall asleep.
Butch and Terry are getting ready for a spacewalk. There are a lot of complex systems on the outside of the station, and sometimes they need fixing.
If you want to go outside, of course, you have to survive in outer space. This suit allows you to do that. So Butch really fills out the suit, but it also means that when you're trying to put the suit on or taking off, it's quite some work.
Getting out of the hatch is an entire operation in and of itself. We have so much equipment on us. Your backpack tends to bang into the hatch, your helmet wants to bang into the hatch. You walk around by grabbing onto things with your gloves.
Almost 300 degrees on the sun side of the space station. You get in the shade, it's minus 275 degrees. You feel that inside the suit. My fingertips in the sunlight would be like I could feel them on fire almost. From the fatigue a little bit, but also from the heat coming through on that sun side of the orbit. So I'd have to, I'd curl my fingers at times and put them in the shade a little bit, let them cool down.
Okay, Butch, we'll take them.
You can lose where you are on station, so you're always thinking you have a safety tether attached to station. It's on a reel, like a fishing reel type thing with a spring that always reels it in. You can be upside down, twisted, inverted, and completely lose your spatial awareness about where you are and what your attitude is, and you can easily get tangled up in that safety tether if you're not cautious. Every single movement you make, you're making an effort to think through it.
The outside of the space station is not just a sidewalk, it's a jungle of wires and equipment and metal bars and trusses. Well, if you accidentally sliced your glove or your spacesuit on one of those sharp edges, that could create a leak. And if that leak were big enough, you would die.
The hardest thing during a spacewalk for me is getting out of the hut.
And so the only way that we found to actually get Butch to come out of the upper torso of the hut was for me to basically push and shake until he finally was able to free himself in the suit.
Holidays in space were great, but to be honest, I missed home. Of course, we didn't want to leave Santa hanging. If there's somebody that you don't want to make mad at Santa Claus, so we put the milk and cookies in the airlock. We weren't sure exactly how he would get in the space station, but we assumed the airlock would be kind of our equivalent of a chimney, so we thought that would be a good place to leave the milk and cookies.
Wow.
Hey! Wow!
For you haircut. For your haircut? That is cool.
I think this is the secret message that needs to come right here.
I speak 3 languages. I speak English, Russian, and Tennessee. As you're learning Russian, they say the first 10 years is the hardest. That's a fact. And then all of a sudden, the day arrives, boom, and it's time to go home.
The Soyuz spacecraft is ready to take Butch, Sasha, and Yelena home.
And of course, you're looking forward, you're coming home, your wife, your family have been away from for 8 months.
Derek, Samantha, Anton, make us proud.
But of course, the people that you're leaving behind too, you spent 6 months with them, and it's a very melancholy feeling because the hatch shuts and they're gone. And you realize that part of your life is over, and you're not going to have this same fellowship with those people ever again. And it is a sad feeling.
In space, without gravity pulling you down, you grow, and I grew almost 2 inches. Unfortunately, the minute I got back to Earth, I lost those.
In zero G, without the loading of gravity, your bones and muscles will weaken very quickly. To stay in shape, it's extremely important for the crews to exercise. A lot.
We have 2.5 hours of exercise scheduled every day, and that includes cardio and this marvelous machine, which is called ARED. You can do things like squats and deadlifts and shoulder presses.
So this is a great example of Node 3 being busy. I'm working on the bathroom, and there's a lot of plumbing and valves and systems that I was changing all while Samantha's exercising there. It's a busy place, but it's important to keep this equipment working.
All right, Samantha, I'm going to put the final clip in here.
I kept joking that he wouldn't be qualified for his flight unless he came with me to my hairdresser to learn how to cut my hair.
Of all the things we do as astronauts, this scares me the most.
For the crews that live on the station, one of the most important things of all is being able to see, from day to day, what we down here on the ground can't see so clearly. What is happening to our Earth, and how we are changing it. We began with a home of lush green forests, animals, and plants. With more and more of us to feed, we began clearing the land for farms. But when you cut down the trees, there are other losses too. Great forests once covered much of the island of Madagascar. You can see how many of them are gone. Without tree roots to anchor it, the red soil oozes downhill, clogging the rivers and vanishing into the sea. Unique animals like the lemurs are losing their homes. The great rainforest in Brazil continues to disappear. It's home to nearly half the species found on Earth. In just 4 decades, almost 500,000 square miles have been cut down and burned. From space, you can see huge smoke plumes stretching across the rainforest for hundreds of miles. Thousands of species up in smoke, forever lost. As the forests burn, carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases spew into our atmosphere. We've always taken our fresh air for granted, but we know now that the fossil fuels we burn also release clouds of pollution into the air we breathe. They fill the atmosphere with gases that cause the climate to change. As a result, the Earth's temperature is rising. In California, it's affecting our most precious resource on Earth, water.
Seeing California is beautiful from space. It actually looks like a giant ice cream scooper went right down the middle part of the state and scooped out the Central Valley. But it's very brown, and you can really tell there's a drought going on and that they could probably use a lot of rain.
In efforts to save parched crops, we used groundwater. So much of it in the last 75 years that parts of the valley have sunk 30 feet.
The life of ranchers and farmers depend on water rights and who can take what water out of which river. Even cities like San Diego, Los Angeles, and Phoenix depend completely on their access to water.
The Colorado River Basin supplies water to 40 million of us in 7 states. The reservoirs that make the system work are losing water at alarming rates. They need huge amounts of runoff from snow to feed them, and the runoff has dwindled in recent years. California's reservoirs could soon be dry.
I had never seen the Himalayas at all, and the immense size was just, it was mind-boggling. They just went on for hundreds and hundreds of miles.
In the shadow of Mount Everest, several of the Earth's great rivers begin their journey across the Indian subcontinent. They provide water to drink, irrigation for crops, a place for worship. But now, the rising temperatures are causing glaciers and snow high on the plateau to melt. The water supply of over 500 million people is now threatened. By the time the rivers reach the Ganges Delta, they've become pipelines for all kinds of pollution, pouring into the sea. But problems like this can be solved, and when we work at it, sometimes we succeed.
When I was a kid in the 70s, the Chesapeake Bay was a mess, and the fish and crabs were disappearing, and there was a big restriction. You couldn't fish for rockfish and other types of fish. It's been cleaned up, and in a few decades' time, it's a beautiful place now. It's thriving. That's a great success story of conservation. It's a giant universe out there, but there's nowhere like Earth. It's a beautiful planet. We have air that we can breathe, we have water that we can drink, food is there for us. We have this life support system that's like perfectly designed to support billions of humans, and it's pretty amazing to see how much effort we had to put into designing and building the space station.
But what if our surface water disappeared altogether? This actually happened on our neighboring planet, Mars. Unlike Earth, Mars doesn't have a magnetic field. Without any protection, its atmosphere was ripped away from the planet by the solar wind. If you could stand on Mars today, you would find a landscape of lifeless desolation. Very cold and very dry. But on Earth, things are going in a very different direction. Ice and snow are melting at rates we've never seen before. In Greenland, time-lapse cameras captured a 23-square-mile chunk of the Jakobshavn Glacier breaking off. The Greenland ice sheet is melting. If the whole ice sheet were to melt, sea levels could rise 20 feet. As the level rises, low-lying coastal areas will submerge. The city of New Orleans could be gone. But we can change this if we step up to limit the greenhouse gases we're producing.
As human beings, we need to start to consider ourselves more and more as crew members of this Earth, not passengers. You know, nobody gets a free ride. You have a responsibility to take care of your fellow crewmates, just like we do on the space station. It's more difficult to do it when you're talking about billions of people, but that's really the mindset that we have to work towards.
A new crew has arrived at the station. 2 Russians, Gennady Padalka and Mikhail Kornienko, and an American, Scott Kelly. The mission for both Scott and Mikhail is to spend a full year here so researchers can study how they're affected by long-term space travel. Scott is soon providing data for his study.
One of the more recent discoveries in terms of the effects of weightlessness on human physiology is the effect that it has on our eyes. Several crew members, long-duration crew members in the past have reported a worsening of their eyesight while they were up in space.
Excellent. That was what we needed, Scott. Let's move on to the radio.
Oh. Ice Espresso, it's this space espresso machine. It was developed in Italy, and we actually, for the first time, could enjoy a good espresso in space.
It's a welcome change. I'm actually gonna try and drink it out of this zero-G cup. See what happens. Very much an experiment. But it'd be a lot nicer if I get to drink my espresso from an actual cup instead of from a bunch. Let's see. Wow, that was good. That was real good.
6 months have passed, and it's time for Terry, Samantha, and Anton to say their goodbyes. It's a bittersweet departure.
See you on Earth.
Three new crew members have moved in. They've set about a special project which will be very important when people take longer journeys to other planets. The best results are produced in this pink light. Without soil, the crew is attempting to grow their own crops. Chell Lindgren, an American medical doctor, inspects the progress.
Veggie was an amazing experiment, not only because we got to grow this plant in space, but we also got to eat it.
Chell's crewmate, Kimiya Yui, is from Japan.
Well, I know that I enjoyed the lettuce. I think Kimiya is not a big fan of vegetables. His father's actually a lettuce farmer. And so I think he's had a lot of lettuce.
Happily, fresh food is about to arrive, this time on the Japanese HTV resupply ship.
Sister hiding out when she paid for the lime. She put the lime in the coke and now she drank and poured up. She put the lime in the coke and now she drank and poured up. She put the lime in the coke and now she drank and poured up. She put the lime in the coke and now she called the doctor, woke him up and said, "Doctor, ain't there nothing I can take?" I said, "Doctor, do you believe Miss Bellyache?" I said, "Doctor, ain't there nothing I can take?" I said,
We are approaching England and its great capital, London. Across the English Channel to the right is France and the glorious city of Paris. Europe lies beyond.
During the daytime, it's kind of hard to tell that people are on Earth. You don't see that much evidence of humanity.
But at night, the same view tells a different story. It's easy to see how populated our planet really is, and how many of us have gathered in towns and cities. Now you can spot famous cities like Amsterdam, Brussels, the capital of Russia, Moscow. The vibrant cities of Japan, Osaka, Nagoya, and Tokyo. Beloved Rome and Naples.
Italy at night is very moving because it's incredibly bright. It's a densely populated country, of course, and so you can really see all the cities, and you have this very distinct shape that you can very definitely see at night as well, of this boot reaching into this darkness of the Mediterranean. This is just overwhelmingly beautiful.
The undulating ribbon of light is the Nile River, illuminated by people drawn from the desert to its water. Cairo gleams like a jewel in the delta's crown. To the left, Israel and the cities of Tel Aviv and Jerusalem.
I think one of the most amazing sights I saw with my eye was coming across the southern United States, Florida, into the Caribbean Sea, through the Bahamas at night with a full moon. And you could see the colors, the aqua colors in the Bahama area, all the way down into, through Cuba, and then Dominican Republic, Haiti, on into Puerto Rico, and then the Virgin Islands beyond that. Oh my goodness.
Fishing boats really stand out at night, especially in Asia and the Andaman Sea and near Thailand. There's a bunch of green fishing boats. During the day, you can't tell there's people in the ocean down there, but at nighttime, there's lots of folks fishing. You can see that.
I can see where I was born. Murfreesboro looks like a little diamond below Nashville. North of that, Louisville. Of course, Indianapolis, just beyond there. Pittsburgh. And then looking to the left, you can see the Great Lakes and, of course, the cities of Green Bay, Chicago. You can see Cleveland evident, Buffalo. And then further up the East Coast, coming to Richmond, Washington, Baltimore, Philadelphia, New York. Long Island sticks out, just absolutely gorgeous. Boston, Cape Cod, very visible, just absolutely beautiful. And then, of course, the cities across the border, Toronto, Ottawa, Montreal, Quebec City.
Astronauts often remark that you don't see any national borders from space. But there are exceptions. The strand of orange light dividing the view is the border separating Pakistan from India.
Wish that there weren't issues, but there are. We have different ideals and different mindsets, and it causes us to have the border. That is sad.
The most noticeable border at night is between North and South Korea.
Seoul, South Korea is one of the brightest, most vibrant cities on the planet. The whole South Korean country is lit up, and then there's this line of the border in this complete darkness of North Korea with a few little white lights where Pyongyang is. But there's a similar number of people on both sides of the border, and you can really see the difference between how people live.
By moonlight, the Gulf of Mexico and the great cities of Dallas, Houston, and San Antonio. The landscape around them is ablaze with thousands of oil and gas flares. To meet our ever-increasing energy needs for the future, we'll have to develop new energy sources on a far larger scale. And one of them is our own sun. As the space station crosses its face, from 250 miles below, you can see the solar panels that provide its power. Here on Earth, we must go beyond capturing the sun's rays and learn how to create energy the way the sun does, by nuclear fusion. The challenge is to build a fusion reactor that will provide enough power for all our needs. If you can figure out how to reproduce this, you can create immense amounts of power and leave no pollution. Our sun also bombards us with lethal radiation. Without protection, most living creatures cannot survive it. But our Earth has a magnetic field which deflects the harmful particles away from us. The aurora shows that shield in action. Because we have this magical magnetic field protecting us, we have our forests and oceans, animals and people. It's why ours is a planet of life.
What struck me looking at Earth from space is the fact that you can really perceive it visually as a spacecraft. I've heard before about, spaceship Earth, but when you are up there, you really cannot escape that notion. It's totally obvious that it is a celestial body that is carrying all of us, all of humanity, all of life on Earth on this journey through space. And just like the space station is, a human-made outpost out there that allows us to survive in this hostile environment of space, well, our Earth does the same for all of us. I can imagine, of course, a future in which human beings are able to travel to other star systems. So I really hope that at some point there will be a breakthrough in science and technology that will allow us to travel faster than light and actually explore different star systems.
Don't you wonder sometimes, are there planets around other stars? Could they have life? Though we can't yet travel to the stars ourselves, our telescopes can. Astronomers have already discovered several thousand planets. We're searching around stars for the perfect conditions. Not too hot, not too cold, for liquid water to exist. We call this the Goldilocks zone. We can detect a planet as it crosses in front of a star, blocking its light. This is one system we found, Kepler 186. It's 500 light years from Earth, and it contains a remarkable 5 Earth-sized planets. Most important of all, the outermost planet, Kepler 186f, is just the right distance from its star for water and life to exist. Could this be another Earth?
it's about this great adventure of exploring, and then it's about understanding how a world works and expanding the possibilities of what we human beings can do.
And we can do great things together if we all do our part for our children and great-grandchildren. Our Earth will always be a beautiful planet.
Please exit from the doors on your left. We would appreciate your taking any food or beverage containers with you. There are trash receptacles in the lobby. Please place your 3D glasses in the containers at the bottom of the stairs. Thank you for visiting Kennedy Space Center Visitor Complex's IMAX Theater. We hope you enjoy your day.
It's time for us to come together and make the future right. I had a epiphany one night, looking at the endless star-filled sky. The world is ours.
Well, that was pretty good. Over here. So what do you think of that?
It was very informative. You know, I like how the first time we came here, I feel like it was a lot of just exhibits and things to look at, almost kind of like a museum.
Mm-hmm.
And we did it already. We're gonna go back and do so you guys can hear the Heroes and Legends, where it was the early space missions before, and that literally just felt like a museum before. Like it was like old models, old spacesuits, old whatever.
Yeah.
Now they kind of made it more interactive, where it's actually kind of more interesting and like, you know, it keeps your attention more than just walking through a museum. Because unless you're my father.
Fair enough. So yeah, I know obviously the show is a lot more visually heavy.
Well, I mean,
I would
it was
definitely
also weird Jennifer Lawrence. I just kept thinking Katniss Everdeen.
Yeah. But definitely, if you have the chance, come in and see it. Like, the visuals are really amazing.
There were 2 Disney references in the movie too.
Spaceship Earth.
There was Spaceship Earth, and then in the very beginning, when they were taking off and going to the space station, there was a little Olaf hanging.
They call it a talisman. It's a good luck. It's a good luck, but it's also, it represents to let the astronauts know when they have gone to space. Because when the thing starts floating. You've reached
but the
space.
fact that it was Olaf.
It was Olaf, yeah. One, I think it was a couple of years ago they used Olaf. So, yeah. Next up in our journey is a nice little tour of Heroes and Legends. This is the now newly moved Astronaut Hall of Fame that was moved from down the road to the Kennedy Space Center Visitor Complex. So enjoy.
Personal heroes. You know, I have a lot of heroes. What was my hero? Your hero? Yeah. Superman.
Iron Man, Luke Skywalker.
I can remember being inspired, like most young children, by TV heroes.
I was inspired, of course, by science fiction.
I think we all have popular heroes, movie stars that move us emotionally or make us feel heroic. am who I am today because of my father.
My father was a hero of mine.
Because he protects me when my brother tries to beat me up. A hero is someone I respect, like my mom. My hero is my mom and she inspired me to be a good person. My hero is Shirley Temple.
My hero is Winston Churchill.
My hero is Dr. Jane Goodall.
Elon Musk.
David Bowie.
My greatest hero was my maternal grandfather.
Both of my parents are my heroes because growing up, they taught me that I can do whatever I want to do.
They pushed me to be a better person.
Well, everybody that plays into a person's life contributes something and is a hero in some way.
Well, to actually be a hero, I just think you've got to...
You need to be smart.
Then be brave.
You're supposed to help people to be a hero. A hero means you have to be determined and really, really, really want to achieve your goals.
Você consegue ser o que você quiser na vida, desde que você estude, trabalhe, persista e sempre faça mais do que espero de você.
It takes a lot to be a hero. It takes selflessness, honesty, integrity.
Doing what you feel is right.
Sacrifice, perseverance, and accountability.
Basically, a hero is brave as can be. They never give up.
Morning class.
I think that teachers are incredibly important.
Mr. Miller, my 8th grade teacher, a hero.
These leaders, these people that inspire you, they're everywhere.
Heroes are people who, by their actions and their presence and everything that they do, inspire you to want to be like them.
You need a pioneer spirit and just be willing to push the boundaries of what we can achieve as humans, as people.
Being Canadians, we love Chris Hadfield.
Chuck Yeager is my hero. He's my hero because he's the first man to break the sound barrier.
Tuskegee Airmen, those are the people that sort of paved the way for me with reference to aviation.
And I used to ride my bicycle up to the airport on a regular basis and just sit and watch the airplanes come and go.
My father was Singapore, the Air Corps, and the Air Force, and Reserve.
As I grew up, I had my own heroes. Charles Lindbergh.
Lindbergh, Charles Lindbergh, he was, of course, a hero of a lot of young boys in the area that I had grown up.
I think you're probably going to get a similar answer from, I should say, many of the astronauts are around my age. It was the Apollo program.
Oh yeah, lots of space heroes.
Buzz Aldrin.
Neil Armstrong.
When I was 9 years old, we landed Apollo 11 on the moon.
Y es un privilegio, es algo mágico realmente, esa experiencia, la conexión que hay entre un astronauta y mucha gente.
Belief in myself started with a very small act from a man named Gene Cernan. For many years, he sent me patches from each of the Apollo space missions.
Guys like John Glenn, Gus Grissom, John Young,
Alan Shepard Foote, Wally Schirra, John Glenn.
In my opinion, he came as an American hero, but he never acted like such.
So those are the types of people that I really admire the most. People that were out on the forefront of exploration, putting their lives on the line. Those guys are the real heroes.
I was very impressed with their accomplishments.
I can't imagine ever doing what they do, and it's amazing.
They're all the same type of personalities. You know, they work hard, they set goals, they achieve.
He always had to steal the dream, so that's a hero.
We choose to go to the moon in this decade for the other men, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
When it was a time to get a specific verification on what the problem is, T-minus 40 seconds now, and counting. All for Google.
Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills.
T-minus 20 seconds and counting.
Because that challenge is one that we're willing to accept. One we are willing to postpone. And one we will take away.
proceed through the doors ahead and watch your step as you enter. Guests with wheelchairs, scooters, or those who cannot use stairs should stay to the right. Please move all the way to the end of your designated load to make room for other guests. Once settled, we ask that you put on your 3D glasses. Should you need to leave the presentation for any reason, please remove your 3D glasses and exit through the doors to your left.
Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin walked on the moon for the first time. I was 10 years old, growing up in Southern California. And what it was about watching them do that, I don't know. But I couldn't take my eyes off the television.
I'll never forget May 7th, 1961. That was the day that I decided that I was going to go ahead.
Plus, I grew up in Florida, so please put your 3D glasses on now.
I wonder what it was like to be one of those first astronauts.
The 33-ton rocket is poised to hurl America's first man into space at 5,000 miles per hour. Alan Shepard will rocket to 115 miles above the Earth. He will weigh nearly 1,000 pounds and replenish the acceleration of the entire booster rocket.
The million-old desire of all pilots, when you walk up to the airplane, you always kick the tires just to be sure they're not flat. This particular rocket I was never going to see again, so I just stopped as I approached it, looked up into the glare of the spotlights, and took a look at the rocket. Sort of another way of kicking the tires, so to speak. Rendezvous, docking, and operating combined spacecraft was a key element of the Apollo strategy. We want to prove that ability on Gemini 8. 3, 2, 1, ignition. Our orbit was primarily over ocean areas, out of range of flight controllers and tracking stations. We were on our own.
Yes, it's really a smoothie. Oh, you couldn't have the thrill down there that we have up here. Passing Madagascar, leaving com range.
Roger, 8. If you run into trouble and the Gina goes wild, just send in command 400 to turn it off and take control of the spacecraft.
Roger, we understand. Thanks, Jim.
I'm not hearing a thruster's fire. Let's go to ACS off, phones power on.
We're at a spin and see a Gina. Send command 400, undock now. It's actually getting worse. Power the system off.
We have serious problems here. We are in the final left-hand roll at the present time.
The hand control has locked up. We can't turn anything off.
Did I hear him say he may have a stuck hand controller? Roger, put on the Gina. No, he says he is separated from the Gina, sitting in a roll and he can't stop it.
Try the re-entry control system. It might just give us the correction we need.
Do I understand he's used all the arms fuel? His brake pressure is down to 0 and all braking equipment.
Okay, let's work on one axis at a time here. Much better.
We're regaining control of the spacecraft slowly. In RCS direct.
Okay, Mikey, we're coming in for dash 3.
like to argue with him, but I don't know, we can. Command, we will prep for emergency landing at 7-3.
Gemini 8 to have some rescue now, please. The Mesa will be on site in about 3 hours after splash.
The space program was just starting, and when they put out their criteria for the type people they wanted, I seem to have all the qualifications that they were looking for. My combat experience in the Marine Corps in the Pacific was a factor. The Marines were being tossed into some of the toughest combat in the early World War II, and then went back out in the Korean War. One of the people who had worked under stress and duress and had come through okay.
John Glenn, Marine, is now good.
Strike big is flying, still a couple more targets left. I'm taking another pass.
Not a good idea, Major Glenn. Leave the flat patch. Yeah.
Our fellow Marines need us to get this done. I'm going in.
Roger that.
Going low. I'm hit. Still have control.
Fire. Good hit. There's not much left of your tail section.
Roger that. Let's see if I can make it back to base.
Welcome to the Air Force Station, man. What do you think about that new F-86 Sabre jet?
Well, I think we're about to find out. Ask me again after we take out these MiGs.
Roger that.
You have to remember my time of growing up in the 1930s. The people of the past, the barnstormers, and the people that did the early triumphs in aviation, and one of them, of course, was Charles Lindbergh. They asked me if I would sort of escort Lindbergh down on the beach watching for the launch of Apollo 11.
He is the world's manned spaceflight journey.
Over here. It'll be a memorable flight.
Kind of like your first flight across the Atlantic.
The flight I'll remember most is your Apollo 8. The first flight to go around the moon.
Now we're going to land on that moon. As I walked with my hero and looked up at that flaming candle taking off for the stars, it all came full circle. The spark of inspiration shaped my career, and my journey took me beyond my wildest dreams to places like the moon. We had just to turn that spark into a flame with the fuel of curiosity. To learn from our failures, never give up until the goal was reached. My heroes and their heroes before them were driven by this notion. So was the entire NASA team when they started this amazing journey into space. Our heroes and legends drive us into the future. Each generation inspires the next to go further into the unknown, beyond our solar system, beyond our galaxy. I can't wait to see where you will go.
Please remove your 3D glasses and watch your set as you exit the theater to your left. Please place your 3D glasses in the receptacles located outside of the theater. Enjoy your experience in Heroes and Legends, featuring the U.S. Astronaut Hall of Fame. Presented by
Thank you. All right, so that was the 3D movie. Really fantastic movie, by the way.
One of the amazing things when you think about this is like, especially toward the end where they had like Charles Lindbergh, you know, that was 1927.
Yep.
And then he crossed the Atlantic, and less than 50 years later, we were on the moon. You know, like.
And he was alive to see that too.
But it's one of those things like, in the grand, like 50 years, yeah, it seems like a long time. But in the grand scheme of things, it's not.
It's a blip.
It's like 20 seconds, you know? And it's kind of amazing when you think about it that way.
Mm-hmm. So in here, they have a lot of the the things that make up an astronaut. You know, being courageous, being principled, being selfless.
And
you know.
this is what I mean. Like when we came through here the first time a year ago or a year and a half ago, they had a lot of the same things, but it was just presented like a museum.
Yeah.
Like this is presented a little bit more interactively. There's a lot of touch screens where you can learn more if you want. And right now we're walking through the actual Hall of Fame, where there's a giant statue of Alan Shepard, who was the first American in space.
Yep. May 5th, 1961. And of course, the Astronaut Hall of Fame was established back in 1990 with Scott Carpenter, Gordon Cooper, John Glenn, Virgil Grissom, Walter Schirra, Alan Shepard, and Donald Slayton in 1990.
And all those were the original Mercury 7.
Actually, no, they were not. They were the original people that were inaugurated into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, but they're the 7.
But Donald Slayton is not.
Yes, he was. He was in the TV show that I watched. He never actually went into space, but he was a part of the original 7. I remember it because I remember the name Deke.
Oh.
Something
right.
about space I knew and you didn't. And I saw the Parkway.
She's referring to John Young because we have a parkway that's named after him, the John Young Parkway.
I like that there's actually women represented too in this.
Well, yeah, as early as Sally Ride in 1983. And that concludes our tour here at the Astronaut Hall of Fame.
And John did take video and I did take photos of all of that, so you can check Facebook for the photos and YouTube for the video.
Yes. All right, so for our next stop, we're going to be taking the bus tour over to the Apollo Saturn V Center, and you'll hear some of the narration on the bus.
We didn't get to do this the last time I came here, so this is my first time going over.
That one we can definitely go for.
You want the little other thing? What mouse do you want?
You're fine.
Are you just gonna hold it?
Yeah.
So basically, we're just gonna take in the GoPro, and I have to carry this stupid bag. Is that what you're telling me?
Yes.
So one of the interesting things in the queue line that we saw is a bunch of posters and like billboard almost type things.
And I know where you're going with this. You knock it off right
And
now.
one of the things is the new Orion craft, and it says America's Next Spaceship. Just saying.
I hate it.
John is mouthing bad words at me.
Better believe I am.
It's a ship that goes into space. It's a spaceship.
It's a substantial distance away from the visitor complex.
Are we going on Tolda? Because there's an E-Pass on there.
No.
Hello, my name is Liz. I'm going to be your tour escort for the first part of this tour. It's going to be a one-stop tour. We're going to be on our way out to the Apollo Saturn V Center, where it's all about going to the moon. On the way, we're going to be watching a couple of videos NASA prepared for you to see, and I'll tell you about some things going on out here right now. We have two launch pads here on the Kennedy side, Launch Pad A and Launch Pad B. We started launching from them in 1968 with the Apollo program and then the Space Shuttle program. And there's also 3 more launch pads, but those are located over at Cape Canaveral Air Force Station. That's where the Air Force launches all the unmanned rockets from. That's where the Atlas V rocket, Delta IV rocket, and where SpaceX's Falcon 9 rocket was launching from. And they have about 2 launches a month go up from over there. The next launch going off is going to be March 8th. Now this is also a wildlife refuge. There's 140,000 acres out here. NASA uses less than 10% of that for their operations. The most abundant wildlife we have is probably the alligator. There's about 6,000 of them. But there's also a lot of other wildlife. There's 117 species of fish, 69 species of reptiles and amphibians, 330 species of birds, and 30 species of mammals. We also have 14 endangered species, which include the West Indian manatee and the Florida scrub jay. So you never know what wildlife you're going to see. And there were some alligators out earlier, so hopefully they're still out there. They're gone. So I'll try to point them out if I see them. Oh, in a couple of minutes we're going to be going through a guard gate. When we go through the guard gate, we're going to be on the secure area on NASA property. So on the way, we're going to watch a video. It's going to be Bob Cabana speaking. He is a 4-time shuttle astronaut, and he's now the director out here at Kennedy Space Center. So he will be doing an introduction into the area and telling you about some of the things that are going on out here right now. Please do not talk on your cell phone on the bus, and please try to whisper on the bus so everyone around you can hear. On behalf of NASA, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, welcome aboard.
Hi, I'm Bob Cabana, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to NASA's John F. Kennedy Space Center. From launching the first Americans into space to launching humans to the moon, we've launched and carried the dreams of a nation. None of it would have been possible without the tremendous team that made it happen here on the Space Coast, that has made possible the launch of every American vehicle that carried a crew into space since that first flight 50 years ago. During this tour, you'll get a unique, behind-the-scenes look at how America wrote many significant chapters in human and robotic space history. Most recently, the Space Shuttle program that launched 135 missions culminated in the assembly of the International Space Station in Low Earth Orbit. The station is truly an engineering marvel and a testament to what we can accomplish when we all work together. I think one of the most enduring legacies will be the international cooperation that we've achieved in building and operating it. It's provided us the framework for how we will move forward as we explore beyond our home planet. Not as explorers from any one country, but as explorers from planet Earth. You're visiting the center at a very exciting time. Since the end of the Space Shuttle program, we've been working on groundbreaking missions that are paving the way to the future. We're focused on launching scientific and research satellites, restoring U.S. capability to launch humans into space from American soil, forging commercial partnerships, modernizing our infrastructure and facilities to support the growing variety of government and commercial activities and missions, and working toward long-term human exploration missions on our journey to Mars. For the first time since the end of the Apollo program, which took us to the moon, NASA is taking steps to send astronauts into deep space with a new Orion exploration vehicle. We have the first spacecraft in history able to transport crews to destinations further than we've ever gone before, including Mars. As capable as Apollo was, the longest round-trip mission to the moon was only 12 days. Orion could sustain a crew of 4 up to 21 days, and when coupled with a habitability module, will allow us to undertake human missions to Mars, which will require close to a 2-year round trip. The vehicle that will carry Orion is the Space Launch System, or SLS. SLS will be the most powerful rocket in history, but more important, it's designed to be flexible and evolvable in order to meet a wide variety of crew and cargo mission requirements. As I said, you're in for a very special experience today. Enjoy yourself as you get a unique look at NASA and Kennedy Space Center's past historic achievements, an exciting peek at our current innovative activities, and an eye-opening view of our amazing future. Again, welcome to the John F. Kennedy Space Center.
Okay, so up here in front of us is the Vehicle Assembly Building, the VAB. We're a little bit less than 5 miles away from it right now. Inside that building is where all of the Saturn V rockets were stacked, all of the space shuttles were assembled, and where all of the new SLS rockets will be stacked. So we're going to be getting closer to that building in a couple of minutes. When we are closer to it, we're going to talk some more about it. So on the way out there, we're going to watch a video that gives you a look inside of the VAB.
Just ahead is one of the world's largest buildings by volume, the Vehicle Assembly Building, or VAB. It was built for the Apollo program in the 1960s and stands 525 feet or 160 meters high. The American flag you see on the front is 21 stories tall. The VAB is where everything comes together before a launch. The Apollo and Space Shuttle vehicles were assembled for flight in the VAB. This cavernous facility contains 4 huge bays where the spacecraft were assembled using massive overhead bridge cranes for highly complex maneuvers. Today, the VAB is being updated to assemble our next human-rated launch vehicle, the Space Launch System, or SLS. The SLS is the most powerful rocket in history and has an evolvable design that ranges from 321 to 384 feet tall, depending on mission requirements. This rocket will someday help NASA to reach its goal of human exploration of Mars. The large tower next to the VAB is the mobile launcher being built for SLS. When completed, it will carry the massive launch vehicle on top of the crawler transporter to pad 39B. You will learn more about the launch of SLS when we get to the launch pad. Adjacent to the VAB is the Launch Control Center, the distinctively shaped 4-story building which houses the launch team. This is where the ground controllers, engineers, and launch director monitor the spacecraft and manage all the activities leading up to launch.
Okay, so up here in front of us, on the front of the vehicle assembly building, there is a flag painted. I'll tell you a little bit about it a little bit closer here. Okay, so each of the stars on the flag measure 6 feet wide from point to point. Each of the stripes measure 8.5 feet wide. The blue part on the flag where the stars are is as big as an NBA-sized basketball court, and it's also the tallest one-story building in the world. And it's hard to believe that the building covers 8 acres, so there's a lot of volume inside. Out on the side of the building, there are big gray doors that go all the way up to the top. Behind the big gray doors are high bays. There are 2 high bays on the west side. This is the west side up here. And then there are 2 more high bays on the east side. And there is a transfer aisle that runs north and south down the middle. Now the reason why they have 4 high bays in there is because when they built the building, the plan was to stack 4 Saturn V rockets at a time. But that never really happened. So the west side's used for storage, and they stack and assemble the vehicles over on the east side because it's closer to the launch pads. Now we're going to go behind the vehicle assembly building and out towards the launch pads. On the way back, we're going to pass back by the front side of the VAB, so you'll get a better look at the front of the building when we come back by it. Right up here to the right, there is an alligator laying on the bank there, on the other side of the water. It's a medium size. Okay, so right up here in front of us, there are 3 shorter square buildings with stripes along the top of them. Those were orbiter processing facilities. They were garages for the space shuttle orbiters. So when the orbiters would land, they would tow it back to one of those 3 buildings to get them ready for their next flight. All 3 of those buildings have been leased out to Boeing. And the first 2 buildings, Boeing is working for the Air Force. They're building a spacecraft for them. And then the 3rd building, Boeing is working on their own vehicle, their Starliner capsule. That's what they're going to be using to transport astronauts for NASA to get them back and forth to the International Space Station. So they're building the Starliner in this building over here to the right. They painted a picture of it on the front of the building. So we'll talk more about Boeing's Starliner a little bit later. Now there was another alligator out here. Let's see if it's still, no, I don't think it's there. There's still a turtle over there bouncing the other alligator. Now we have two crawler transporters. They're like very big tractors, and that's what we use to transport the vehicles from the vehicle assembly building to the launch pads. The other alligator's over there to the left. It's on the other side of that concrete thing. See it laying over there in the grass? There's an alligator over there. Okay, so right up here to the right is one of the crawlers. It looks like a really big gray tractor with the yellow railings and the big orange brownish tracks on the bottom. This crawler's been getting upgrades done to it for a couple of years because it's the crawler that's going to transport all the new SLS rockets. Launch pad A is 3.5 miles away. Launch pad B is 4.2 miles away. Takes the crawler about 6 hours to get to launch pad A and about 8 hours to get to launch pad B. And it only gets 32 feet to the gallon. So it doesn't move unless it absolutely has to move. Right up here, this shorter gray platform is called a mobile launch platform. This is what the space shuttle's launched off of. Also what the Saturn V rockets launched off of, it was just remodeled for the space shuttle program. So how it works is one of the crawlers would crawl underneath the platform, use hydraulics to lift it off the gray pedestals, then take it inside the VAB. They would assemble the space shuttle on top of the platform. Then the crawler would pick the platform back up and take it out to one of the two launch pads. So this is what the space shuttle's launched off of. We have 3 of these platforms. This one was the original one. It's the one Apollo 13 launched off of. It was just remodeled for the space shuttle program. Right up here, the tall tower is called a mobile launcher. Pretty much the same concept. The updated crawler is going to pick it up, take it inside the VAB. They're going to stack NASA's new SLS rocket with the Orion capsule on top of it along the side of the tower. Then the crawler will pick the platform back up and take it out to launch pad B. So this is what the SLS rocket will be launching off of starting in 2018. It will be the most powerful rocket ever built. Right now, the Saturn V rocket still holds that title. But when the SLS rocket is ready, it's going to take that title over. And we're going to talk more about the SLS when we get out to launch pad B. As you can see, they're still doing a lot of work to it to get it ready. They work on it every day but Sunday. Right up here to the right, there's going to be a gravel runway. It's called the Crawler Way. This is the road that the crawler uses to transport the vehicles. The crawler uses both lanes and it straddles the grassy median up here. The road's 7 feet deep with various levels of fill. The top layer is Alabama-Tennessee River rock. The reason why they chose that rock is the crawler can crush it down flat and it will not create a spark. And the road can withstand up to 26 million pounds of weight, so it can hold a lot of weight. We're coming up on the east side of the VAB, so you can see the big gray doors over here on the east side. The doors that are open on the right, that is the high bay that you're going to see all the SLS rockets coming out of. So that's the only high bay being modified for the SLS. Right up here, there's the shorter white building with windows along the front of it. That's the Launch Control Center. That is where the firing rooms are. So that's where the people are that are launching the vehicles. But they only have control in that building for about the first 8 seconds. That's when Johnson's Control Center in Houston, Texas takes over. So we are only in charge of getting vehicles ready here and launching the vehicles. Over in Houston, Texas, that's Mission Control. They're in charge of the actual mission. Way up there to the right, there's a flag flying. Down from the flag is a little blue box. That is the countdown clock, kind of behind the bleachers out there. If the only launches you've seen were on TV, chances are that's the area you've seen the clock counting down from, because that is the press site. So that's the closest anyone could be to a launch, 3.5 miles. We're going to follow the Crawler Way all the way out to the launch pads. On the way, we're going to watch a video that gives the history of launch pad A. On the way back, we're going to pass back by the press site and the front of the VAB.
We are now approaching Launch Pad 39A. It was constructed for the Apollo program and is where all 12 moonwalkers began their historic journeys. You'll learn more about the Apollo program when you get to the Apollo Saturn V Center. Following the end of the Apollo program, Pad 39A was the site that launched Skylab, the first U.S. space station to orbit the Earth on May 14, 1973. Skylab provided America's initial experience with long-duration spaceflight. During 1973 and 1974, 3 Skylab crews were launched on missions of 28, 59, and 84 days. The first space shuttle mission was launched from here on April 12, 1981. Over a period of 30 years, there were a total of 135 shuttle missions. 82 lifted off from this launch pad. The reusable space shuttle system transformed the way we operate in space. The space shuttle launched dozens of communication satellites, as well as robotic spacecraft on groundbreaking missions to Venus, Jupiter, and Saturn. Not only did the shuttle deploy the Hubble Space Telescope in 1990, but it conducted 5 repair and upgrade missions that enabled the Hubble to literally rewrite astronomy textbooks. The Space Shuttle program ultimately assured its place in history with the complex on-orbit assembly of the International Space Station, the ISS. The shuttle made 37 flights to construct the station, which is larger than an American football field and can be seen at night orbiting Earth with the naked eye. This unique scientific platform allows researchers from all over the world to work on innovative experiments and help to enable NASA's long-term human exploration plans.
Okay, so up here in front of us is the other crawler transporter. Sitting on top of it is another one of the mobile launch platforms. So on the bottom, this crawler is actually in the process of being retired. We don't need it anymore. So right now it's just sitting here so you can see what it looks like with the mobile launch platform on top of it. So as we drive by, you can get a good look at what the crawler looks like. The other crawler's just been upgraded some, but it still looks pretty much the same. So we're going to finish watching the video that tells us what they're doing at Launch Pad A right now, what we are about to see.
Since the end of the Space Shuttle program in 2011, Pad 39A has begun yet another transformation. Commercial developer SpaceX is modifying the pad to launch a larger version of their Falcon 9 rocket called the Falcon Heavy. SpaceX is also building a crew capsule capable of carrying astronauts and will be launching crews to the International Space Station as part of NASA's Commercial Crew Program. Another commercial provider to support NASA's crew transportation is Boeing. They named their capsule the CST-100. Like SpaceX, Boeing's capsule will begin flying to the station later this decade. They will launch from Cape Canaveral Air Force Station just a few miles from here on a modified Atlas V rocket. With private industry stepping up to support low Earth orbit missions to the ISS, NASA can focus more heavily on deep space exploration, which you will learn about at Launch Pad 39B.
Okay, so over here to the left on top of Launch Pad A, that gray structure, that's the service tower that was left over from the shuttle program, and it still looks kind of like it did for the last space shuttle launch, Atlantis, in 2011. But Launch Pad A has been leased out to SpaceX. The reason why: NASA did not have the budget to maintain Launch Pad A, plus NASA was never using this launch pad again. They don't need it. So right up here to the left, SpaceX built a building. Inside this building, they're going to stack their new Falcon Heavy rocket. They will stack it horizontal, then they will roll it up on top of the launch pad and move it vertical. And they want to have the first test launch of that Falcon Heavy rocket by the end of the year. The Falcon Heavy rocket is 3 Falcon 9 rockets strapped together, so it will have 27 engines. The guy that owns SpaceX, his name is Elon Musk. He was one of the founders of PayPal. He founded that when he was in college. He sold it, started his own rocket company. He also owns a car company called Tesla, so he's a very smart guy. But his main goal in life is he wants to live on Mars, and he wants to die on Mars, but not from impact. So, one of the things he will be doing is trying to get to Mars as quickly and safely as he can. And he's actually young enough and rich enough that he might be able to do that. But in the meantime, he has lots of contracts with other companies. He launches satellites for them. Then he also has contracts with NASA, and he will eventually be launching astronauts for NASA to get them back and forth to the International Space Station. So a lot of things are happening from this launch pad. They just had a launch from this launch pad almost 2 weeks ago, and it was a Falcon 9 launch. It was the first time anything has launched from here on the Kennedy side since 2011. And that happened about 2 weeks ago, and it was an unmanned mission. It did a supply mission up to the International Space Station. It launched from this launch pad. They now plan to have 2 Falcon 9 rockets launched from this launch pad every month. But they haven't officially set the date for the next one yet. But that's the plan. Every, or 2 times a month they plan on launching a Falcon 9 rocket from here. Now the timeline for this launch pad is, of course, the 2 launches a month, like I just said, for this year. By the end of this year, doing the first test launch of their Falcon Heavy rocket. Next year, they plan on launching astronauts for NASA to get them back and forth to the International Space Station. And by the end of next year, they just had a news conference about it. They plan on launching 2 civilians into space. They are getting training, and they're paying. And they are going up into space and going to do a loop around the moon. They're going to go farther than any human has ever gone before into space. And so they plan on doing that by the end of next year. So a lot of things are happening from this launch pad. On top of the gray structure, the tall white thing, that is a lightning mast. They learned during the Apollo days that Florida is the lightning capital of the United States. So they added lightning masts to protect the vehicles. Like I said, all that gray structure is just left over from the shuttle program. It's not part of the launch pad. The launch pad consists of the concrete. Whatever's built on top of it is only to support whatever program we have at the time. SpaceX will leave some of the old shuttle structure there, plus some of it's useful. But some of it is in their way, so they will be removing the parts that are in their way. Laying on the launch pad on its side, there's a white thing laying on its side. That is called a strung back. That's actually what they stack the rocket on top of. They stack it inside the building down there, then they roll it up on top of the launch pad, and they move it vertical for the launch. So that's the strung back that they stack the rockets on top of. Right up here to the right, across from the water, is Cape Canaveral Air Force Station. They have a lot of launch pads over there, but only 3 active launch pads and only 3 rockets that launch from over there right now. So the first 4 Lightning Towers is where Atlas V rockets launch from. The next 4 Lightning Towers is where SpaceX was launching the Falcon 9 rocket from. The white building behind that's where Delta IV rockets launch from. They have a launch coming up March 8th. There's also going to be a 4th launch pad become active again. You can't see it from here, but that will be Blue Origin's using it. The guy that owns Amazon owns Blue Origins, and he has a lot of cool plans for that launch pad. He's building a rocket factory out here. But right now, these are the only 3 active launch pads. Last time an astronaut launched from over there was back in the 60s. But that's changing, because that's where Boeing's going to launch the astronauts from. Boeing's going to put the astronauts inside of a Starliner capsule and launch them off of a modified Atlas V rocket. Boeing and SpaceX are the 2 companies NASA chose to take over low Earth orbit. It's called the Commercial Crew Program. The astronauts that will go on the first mission are in training right now, and both companies plan on launching the astronauts for NASA by early 2018. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens with that. Wait and see which company actually launches them first. Up here in front of us is the Atlantic Ocean. We have over 40 miles of untouched beach. Also the largest sea turtle nesting area. To the right, Cape Canaveral Air Force Station. They are a little bit picky about who they let on their property. So basically, I'm not allowed to go that way. So we're going to turn to the left and head out towards Launch Pad B, NASA's launch pad of the future.
Nowhere else on KSC is preparation for the future as obvious as at Launch Pad 39B. Built as an identical pad to 39A for the Apollo Saturn V rocket, Pad B was also updated for the Space Shuttle program. 53 shuttle missions launched from this pad, including 12 missions to help construct or resupply the space station. Today, the pad is being modified for the Space Launch System, or SLS. It will be used for NASA's deep space missions beyond Earth orbit, including the capture of an asteroid and, eventually, human exploration of Mars.
Okay, we're going to pause right up here for a couple of seconds. You can take a quick picture out the window of Launch Pad A. The water tower holds 300,000 gallons of water. All the water is used for is sound suppression. So for example, before a space shuttle launch, they would flood the launch pad with all of the water. That kept the sound decibels down, and it kept the sound from bouncing up and damaging the space shuttle. So if you've ever seen a launch on TV and you saw the white smoke on the ground, it wasn't smoke, it was steam from all the water. And the space shuttle cleared that tower in less than 8 seconds. 8.5 minutes later, it was traveling at 17,500 miles an hour, and it was in low Earth orbit. So it moved very quickly. We're going to finish watching the video that talks about Launch Pad B. Launch Pad B is in front of us with the 3 lightning towers.
3 600-foot-tall masts were built near the pad to provide lightning protection to the vehicles prior to launch. Both the fixed service structure and rotating service structure that were built for the shuttle have been removed, making it more flexible and able to support many different launch vehicles. Below the pad is a 4-story facility that houses the infrastructure needed for launch, including power, hydraulics, and water. Several miles of outdated wiring and cables have been removed and replaced with high-speed fiber optics. The first SLS mission carrying a crew aboard the Orion spacecraft is set to launch on a 3-week trip to orbit the moon to demonstrate the capabilities necessary for NASA to conduct an asteroid retrieval mission. SLS vehicles will evolve to support human deep space missions, in addition to robotic missions and astronomical observatories. In the past, such missions have been limited by the size and capabilities of existing rockets. The SLS payload carrier is large enough to hold 9 school buses. And for NASA's missions to the outer planets, its larger propulsion systems would enable more direct trajectories, reducing mission travel time and increasing actual mission time by years. Previous spacecraft have had to make multiple gravity assist maneuvers around the inner planets to reach the velocity needed, costing valuable time.
Okay, so up here in front of us is Launch Pad B. It's also a universal launch pad. This is becoming a multi-user spaceport, so NASA will lease the launch pad out in between their launches. The first launch from this launch pad will be 2018. That's going to be the first test launch of the SLS. The first manned SLS is probably going to be around 2023. And they have a lot of things that they want to do with the new rocket. But the main goal is to eventually give us enough information to get to Mars. Right now it looks like we'll be able to go to Mars sometime in the 2030s. But there's still a lot of research that has to be done before we can get there. We have a lot of problems here on Earth that we're going to have to solve before we can go to Mars. So the research we do to get there is beneficial to us down here on Earth. There are a lot of spin-offs from the space program. Most of them you use every day, especially a lot in the medical field, maybe even one that saved your life. You can go to spinoff.nasa.gov to look up all the spin-offs. There's over 30,000 things. And that's the benefits of space exploration for us down here on Earth. To name a couple of the spin-offs, you have smartphones, GPS, heart monitors, insulin pumps, artificial limbs, artificial hips, digital cameras, water purification systems, memory foam, So there's a lot of spinoffs. You can go to spinoff.nasa.gov if you want to learn more about some of the spinoffs that affect your life. Now, the vehicles would not be out here for a launch. The sound would blow out their windows. The people would not be out here either because the concussion from the sound would stop their heart. So all the people and their vehicles would be at least 3.5 miles away. No one would ever be any closer than 3.5 miles. For the animals, they start doing a lot of things to scare them off. Over about a week period, they start about a week before a launch and do more and more till all the animals are pretty much gone. And then right up here to the right, there's a alligator laying on the other side of the water over there. Pretty good sized one. And there's actually 2 of them. There's another one coming off the bank. I think that's one. Yeah, that's one. Over there coming off the bank. His head. Oh, and there's another one to the left over here coming off the bank. Kind of where the sign is on the left, coming off the bank into the water. So 3 of them out there, I think. Let's see if I'm missing one. They have a sign inside the building by the time clock that tells the employees to always look underneath their cars before they walk out and unlock their doors. Sometimes the alligators are hanging out underneath their cars, and that would not be fun to find. So a lot of alligators in there. Over here to the left, these are flame deflectors. They were taken out of the flame trench. When engines are lit, this is what gets the direct hit from the flames. These actually funnel the flames down into the flame trench. These were the ones used during the space shuttle program. They are too small for flames that will come out of any of the new rockets, so they're going to be making them bigger. They have a coating of a flame-resistant concrete on top of them. It's called fondue fire. That's what you see melting off. We're going to be heading back up towards the vehicle assembly building. On the way up there, we're going to watch a video. It's going to be NASA explaining why they explore and some more of their plans for the future.
System is an all-new heavy-lift rocket that uses a combination of proven hardware and technology to make it more affordable. We could take the best from all we've learned from building rockets and combine that with cutting-edge tooling and manufacturing technology to build the most powerful rocket in history. You can fly to really high orbits around the moon with this rocket without requiring any other assistance. But when we add an upper stage, we'll have an even bigger capacity.
The larger evolved version of SOS can carry a habitat, larger solar array, additional propulsion, you name it. It's really a versatile rocket.
astronauts beyond low Earth orbit, we need a new crew vehicle, Orion.
The Orion spacecraft is conical shaped, like Apollo was. But it's actually larger than Apollo, and is capable of taking people farther into space than ever before. It can protect a crew of 4 for up to 21 days, and carry food, air, water, supplies, all the things the crew will need. Orion is the most advanced and versatile spacecraft ever made. It uses state-of-the-art technology, materials, and design processes based on more than 50 years of research and technology development.
The first crewed flight of Orion and the Space Launch System will be a flight around the moon during Exploration Mission 2. A crew of astronauts will launch on SLS, fly several orbits around the Earth, then perform a translunar injection, which will send them on a path from Earth orbit towards the moon.
Once the crew gets near the moon, Orion will pass within 60 miles of the surface, and from there, Orion can enter into a high lunar orbit, several thousand miles from the surface. The tools, the knowledge, and the experience that we have at our disposal today come from nearly 50 years of space exploration and ultimately benefit lives here on Earth.
Who knows what will come out of the scientific knowledge, discovery, and economic opportunities that result from deep space exploration?
We just hit the tip of the iceberg in terms of human exploration. Now we need to explore deep space. To me, that's the goal, to expand humanity's presence beyond the Earth.
Exploring Beyond has a deeper purpose, and it is a bolder mission than anything we've ever done before.
I believe that people still look to NASA and the United States for leadership in space. It takes courage and resolve and commitment. And when we leave Earth to explore our solar system, it will not be as any one nation or culture, but as citizens of Earth for all of humanity.
Okay, so up here in front of us on the side of the VAB, those big gray doors, they open all the way up into each other like a deck of cards. Takes about 45 minutes for the doors to open all the way. All of the doors had to be open to get a Saturn V rocket out. It only cleared the top by 6 feet. But to get a shuttle out, you only had to open the doors half the way up. Now for the new SLS rocket, they will open all the doors again. Those are also the tallest opening doors in the world. They are 456 feet tall. To the left of the VAB, there's the Launch Control Building again. It's also the most secure building we have on property. Everything out here is ran out of that building. They have 4 firing rooms inside. Right up here to the left, down from the flagpole, is the blue countdown clock again. It's actually a brand new countdown clock. The original one was at the entrance where you came in this morning. That was the one used from 1968 to 2011, but it still took light bulbs and it was getting hard to find parts for it. So they decided it was time to replace it. So they just replaced it. I believe it's been 2 years ago now. So that's the new countdown clock to the left. Now this is a Saturday, so not that many people really show up to work on Saturday or Sunday. But a normal Monday through Friday week, almost every single parking spot out here would be full. And this is only one section. We have a much, much bigger section than this where headquarters is, most of the office buildings are, and where they built and are processing the new Orion capsule. So there are a lot of people that work out here getting ready for the future. Right up here, there is going to be a mock-up of the new launch abort rocket. When the SLS rocket launches, they're going to put the Orion capsule on top of it. The Orion capsule is where the astronauts will be. On top of the Orion capsule will be the abort rocket. That way, if they have any issues during liftoff, they can fire up the abort rocket to pull the Orion capsule away and land it back down in the ocean. So right up here to the right is a mock-up of the abort rocket. Behind us, the crew access arm, they took off of launch pad A. The astronauts would walk across the gray part, go into the white room. That's where they put their helmets on before they crawled into the space shuttle. They took that off of launch pad A because NASA wants to keep it. Right up here to the right is an armored personnel carrier. There were a couple of those parked out by the launch pad full of emergency personnel for a launch. Then there was also another one that was empty for astronauts to get inside of in case of an emergency. Right up here to the right, that short white building is the most important building out here. That's the cafeteria. They have Sonny's Barbecue and Subway in there. And their saying is no lunch, no launch. Okay, so it's just a transition period out here right now. It's the same thing that has always been done in the past. Whenever you retire a program, you always have to have a transition period because of the budget. So the space shuttle was retired because it was only good for low Earth orbit. It was also a very old vehicle. So they had actually made the decision a long time ago that they would retire the space shuttle as soon as it completed the International Space Station, so that's what happened. Right now we are just waiting for the new SLS to get up and going. The only difference in this transition period and the ones in the past is that it's much busier out here right now. This is becoming a multi-user spaceport, so it's very busy. And it gets busier every day, just not on the weekends. So we're going to see if we see any more alligators out. Passed by one we saw earlier again. It's still there. Sometimes there's one over here to the left. I didn't see it earlier, but let's see. It's not there right now. No, it's not there. Turtle is there though. There might, oh no, there's one right over here to the right, laying up there. There's a big one laying right there, or a bigger one, but there's a baby one laying up above it. We're going to look one last place here, see if we have anything in this water. Out there today. Right over here to the left on the other side of the white building is the runway. The runway is 15,000 feet long. That's how we would get the Space Shuttle orbiters back. When the orbiters came back, they were gliders. They had no engine, so they only had one chance to get the landing right. They started their deorbit burn over Australia, and 1 hour later they landed on this runway. They still use the runway a lot. A lot of commercial companies use it. One of the companies is going to take people up to the edge of space for a small fee, depending on how you look at it. The Air Force uses the runway and a lot of other companies, so it's very busy out there. We're almost to the Saturn V Center, so inside this building is one of the 3 Saturn V rockets that was left over from the moon program. It is 363 feet long. Also inside there's an Apollo treasure gallery. In that gallery there's a real spacesuit Alan Shepard wore on the Apollo 14 mission in 1971. That's the same mission that he played golf on the moon, and it still has moon dust on the ankles and the boots. Also the command module that he splashed back down into the ocean, and the Kitty Hawk is in there, so don't forget to go inside the treasure gallery. Outside of the gallery is a real piece of the moon that you can touch. There's also 2 theaters inside. One's going to be a recreation of the Apollo 11 lunar landing. That was the first steps on the moon. I'm going to drop you off in front of silver doors that open every 8 minutes. Behind those doors will be the first theater. And there you'll feel like you were in the firing room in 1968 when they launched Apollo 8. They have the original consoles in there out of that firing room, so it's really neat. Also, on the other end of the building, they have a new memorial in there for the astronauts that we lost in the Apollo 1 fire. It happened over 50 years ago. They were doing a dress rehearsal and the capsule caught on fire, and they and the 3 astronauts that were in there lost their lives. So on the other end of this building, that we have a brand new memorial there, just opened about a month ago. So be sure to walk through there. And then there's also a restaurant in here. Over by the restaurant, there are doors. You can go out back. There's more grandstands out back. That's where the astronauts' families watch the launches from. So you can go out there if you want to get a look at what their view is like of a launch. But when you get off the bus, just wait in front of the silver doors until they open. Whenever you're ready to leave, just exit through the gift shop, get on any bus, and it will take you directly back to the beginning to the visitors complex. So you're just going to stay here as long as you want, catch any bus back whenever you are ready to go. And the doors should be opening in just a couple of minutes.
There we go. Well, it's funny because we're Floridians. It's like we see alligators all the time.
Impressed with the alligators, just like.
Well, because I used to live over in Tarpon Springs, over in the Tampa area, and there used to be still is a nice little park area, and see gators all the time.
Yeah, we have this park in Tyson. My friend goes running there all the time, but you have to like jump over alligators and stuff. I'm like, I'm not going there. I'm sorry, I can't run.
Yeah, it's so funny. Like, it's so funny the things that like that other people find interesting that aren't from Florida, where you see gators all the time.
One time I like it's like when they're like walking across the road. But like that's pretty cool because they look kind of like a dinosaur.
Yeah, it's a little.
But when they're just laying there, I'm like.
I work at Disney, and you would be surprised at how many people are like so excited to see squirrels.
Yeah.
Like I'm just like it's a rat with a
turtles.
fluffy.
Like I don't even point out turtles half the time, but I hear people screaming, oh, "There's a turtle! There's a turtle!" And I'm like, seriously. I just see them all the time.
I always find it funny. So, with the unfortunate event that happened last year with the kid that got dragged down by alligator, I'm like, this is why you see Floridians don't go in the water. They'll go in a pool or a water park. I'm not going to go into like, you know, the intercoastal waterway or a pond. I'm like, if I can't see the bottom, I'm not going.
So yeah, there's a reason. And I still look at pools. Like I walk around the edge of the pool. You're like, yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Have a nice day.
You too. Honey, over here. So, I think that'll end for this week's episode. We're going to actually do a 2-parter. At least, yes. So hopefully you enjoyed part 1 here at the Kennedy Space Center Visitor Complex. Part 2 will be continuing here at the Apollo 75 Center. So, again, if you want to follow us, you can follow at Central FLSAS. You can like us on Facebook, and you can subscribe to us on YouTube. Until next week, say goodbye, Anne-Marie.
Goodbye, Anne-Marie.
And so long and have a magical week, everybody.
Hana means family. Family means nobody
gets left behind
or forgotten.